Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a speech pathologist who works at Voice Science, and today I'm so excited to welcome you to the channel if this is your first time. Otherwise, if you've been hanging around here for a while on our channel, so nice to have you back in the community. Australian accent is such a hot topic, and it's something we talk about every day at Voice Science, so I thought it's jolly well time we launch right in and look at all of the sounds of Australian English, clarify some terminology, and give you an amazing value-packed resource that lists all the sounds of standard Australian English. But before we head right in, let's just classify and categorize some of the key definitions around Australian English. Really important for you to know, there are 3 core subgroups for how we describe Australian English. The first dialectical subgroup is Aboriginal English. The second, ethnocultural Australian English varieties. So this would refer to a speaker in Australia who has arrived at a certain point in their life who still shows the sounds and features in their speaking in English of their first language, or indeed the country that they were living in for the majority of the time prior to arrival. So this is definitely a standard enough accent, it's not inferior. And in fact, many of our viewers may indeed have this type of categorization for their current speaking of English. So if you're one of those, be proud. It means you might speak more than one language. Congratulations. Finally, and not most importantly, it's just one of the variations, we have this type of English speaking called Standard Australian English. And today's video is all about that. When we look at accents, we're dealing with what is the bag of sounds you get given for the accent you have. And the way we classify the sounds of the speaker is using the International Phonetic Alphabet, which is an alphabet for sounds of all languages in the world. Australian English has a few ways to be described using phonetics. In today's demonstration, I will be referring to the core mainstream use of phonetics for Australian English so that it's user-friendly. Now, this doesn't mean that it's the only way or the superior way to write Australian English with phonetics. It's just the easiest one for you personally to reference because it's the spelling phonetic system that we find in our core dictionaries throughout the world for Australian English that are non-American. So we'd find these transcriptions in phonetics, so the little symbols that we're referring to today, you will find in all your main dictionaries that you can access on your phone or have on your bookshelf. So you will see phonetic transcription in Collins, Macquarie, Oxford dictionaries using these symbols, and that's why I've chosen them. There is actually a slightly better classification system, however there is no dictionary that correlates to that system, so it's really not practical for you to get your hands on at this point in time, I don't think. Now, before we launch into looking at all of the numerous sounds of Australian English, I have a task for you to do. So you might like to pause the video and go off and do a little bit of work on Google. It's not hard, it's just interesting. Now, in Google, type the term phonology of, and then write the language that you speak if it's a language other than English. So if you're Russian, you'll write phonology of Russian. If you're Spanish, phonology of Espanol, and you can definitely search it in your first language if you prefer, or in English, whichever kind of floats your boat. You're looking up the phonology of your first language. Now, against the handout, which you should be able to download up here on this side of the screen, click on that, download our handout. That's your personal copy of every single phonetic symbol that you need for Australian English according to the standard Australian English accent. And I want you to get that piece of paper or PDF or whatever format you've got it in, and I want you to line it up against the phonology or the phonetic code that's outlined for the other language that you speak. And you'll notice that there's lots of differences. Neither good nor bad, it's just different. So we'll start with vowels. If you're speaking a Romance language like Spanish or Portuguese or Romanian even, many more, you will notice that you have less vowels in the list of your first language compared to Australian English. So it gives you a nice practical sense that there are a lot of sounds to learn that are vowels potentially for you. And this is a great way for you to start thinking through what are your problem points in your speaking pronunciation. So starting to develop a phonetic mindset so that you've got this understanding that you've got a set of sounds, you can categorize them concretely with symbols. It's not just this sort of, it sounds funny or it sounds different. Australian English, it's actually a set of sounds that are really concrete, that are either present or not present or distorted. So you've got your vowels, you're going to contrast them. And then the next thing you need to do is look at the consonants of your first language, or if you speak two languages, of all the languages you speak, and contrast them with the consonants that you find in your workbook from us that you've hopefully downloaded by now. And you'll see that there's gaps, and you'll also see that there's definitely some similarities. You don't need to understand every symbol at this stage, so please don't panic, but if you're wanting to know a little bit more about phonetics, it's always quite good to take it with an understanding from the first language that you speak. So when I'm trying to solve my phonetic dilemmas in German or in Russian or even Bulgarian, I've had to do that as an opera singer. What I do is I look at the sounds that I have with my Australian accent, especially vowels. That's a big one for me as a singer. And then I look at the sounds that are missing that I need to have for Bulgarian or that I need to have for Spanish. And I check the gaps. And then I make sure that I really know what sounds are a problem point for me if I'm trying to sing a lot more like a native speaker, which is the expectation in opera. So what do we do next? We've got this epic list. It's pretty long. I'm here to encourage you and also to advocate for you. So if you've been feeling frustrated about your speaking and annoyed perhaps by people saying you've got a strong accent or where are you from and all of these things, it's really important to understand that when we move between languages, there's always gaps with speaking sounds and there's always gaps with information that you can pick up as an adult. So our goal at Voice Science is actually to take people through the gaps and through the error patterns that are falling if they're wanting a certain set of sounds to get closer to a type of accent that they're aiming for. So don't beat yourself up. Be proud that you got so far with your English speaking that now you're in the fine-tuning. You're thinking about phonetics. That's hardcore, to actually take that step and move away from this focus on what should I say and what grammar do I need and what words do I even use to say the things, and now zooming in and showing a higher level of language and thinking about, okay, I took care of the grammar and the content side of things. Now I want to take care of the expression and the emphasis and the sound clarity and accuracy so that I can feel the sounds of English moving more naturally and freely in my mouth. So phonetics is the way. We know from research that adults can't mimic according to the sounds they hear and automatically produce them. You need to know the position of the mouth, and that's what phonetics will give you. So this is a little intro to start to get you thinking phonetically. In our clinic, we'll show you the sounds, the shapes of the mouth, but let's not talk about that. Let's get in straight away to give you some things to think about and do to power your pronunciation. So we have this list. It's long. You've done a bit of analysis. In the file that you should have received, if you've downloaded it, you also have an audio file in which you can listen and correlate the symbol with the sound that you hear. Now we know you can't mimic the pronunciation, but it's still really good to start to form this understanding that sounds of all languages actually have a symbol that match, and you could perhaps even identify which types of words on this list do you know are a real problem point for you, and that's the first step. We're happy to do that for you. That is definitely what we're trained and qualified to do. But you can definitely make a little start and dip that toe in the cold water and start to sort of think, I want to change my speaking, but what's in the way? What's getting in the way of me moving my patterns a lot closer to create an accurate standard Australian accent, if indeed that's your goal? The other thing that's really affirming by this list is that you can see that there will be, in all cases pretty much, some shared sounds. So it's always good to think about, okay, I've got this sound in mother tongue, I'm told I've got it, maybe slightly different, but it's close enough. Honestly, it will be close enough to do what you need. I'm going to take that sound and know I've got it, and now I'm going to find words in my mother tongue that contain that symbol. And you can do that very easily by just looking up a phonology entry of some sample words next to the symbol, and you know the sound, and then you link it across to words that might need it in English. And you'll find that generally, if the sound exists in mother tongue, it's usually okay in English. There's a few things though that can get in the way for you, like the end position of a word. Knowing your enemy according to the position of the word is really helpful as well. Vowels are difficult and they require a lot of information about the shape of the lips, the position of the jaw, the position of the tongue, and that's information that really does need to be customized to you. So you can get lost on YouTube looking at all the numerous videos about how do you do this and how do you do that and where's your tongue for this and that, but it's always very much relative to what you're coming from. So I'd always recommend that you opt for a really individualized approach to correct vowel sounds. You can do a bit with consonants on your own, but definitely knowing where your tongue is for a sound that you're trying to make and getting that instruction and feedback from someone qualified who can say, listen, your tongue needs to go here, or you need to extend that sound, or your lips are too tight. You might have watched a YouTube video, tighten your lips, but for you, no way. We need to loosen those because your mother tongue is really getting in the way on that sound. So, phonetics, I could talk about it all day, but I'm sure you've got busy plans ahead of you, and we will wrap it up there with a beautiful big red bow. If you haven't downloaded the handout, I don't want to pressure you to do so, but you will find some really cool things in there. There's a bit of audio, as mentioned, and your complete list of sounds for Australian English, which is very helpful if you're wanting to address your speaking pronunciation. I'm Sarah. I'm the Chief Speech Pathologist at Voice Science. I lead an amazing team of speech pathologists who are highly skilled in pronunciation training and accent modification. If you have questions about our services, comment below or head to the website. We will reply. This is a hot topic. We love it. It's one of our passion areas in the clinic. Otherwise, if you're based in Melbourne, you can definitely find us easily. We're on Collins Street in the centre of the city. We're available by appointment. If you live abroad, don't feel like we're too far away. The world is a big place, but we're all tightly connected through social media and things like that. So be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Subscribe if today's the day and you love this video. Please subscribe. We'd love to welcome you to the community, which is growing. Thank you everyone for participating and growing this wonderful community. And there is one more thing that I would love you to do, and I'm sure anyone on this channel would really benefit from. I want you to think of a few words in English that you struggle to get out. Have the courage, write them in the comments below, and then in brackets put the accent preference that you might have. So you might write tower, radio, work, her, and then in brackets put American English if that's your goal, or Australian English, or just something neutral. And in doing so, you're letting everyone in our community know that it's normal, if you're speaking your second language, to feel worried or to wonder how to say words. That's just what comes with our second language, and that's a big gift. Keeps our brain tight and sharp. So comment below, I will reply, or my team members will, and let's get the conversation started around phonetics and pronunciation and the courage to name the words that are hard and do something to address them. Have a wonderful day and see you soon around here. Ciao!
Keep losing sleep while driving in the backseat. What's left of